In this video, I will show you the new locations revealed by the new gameplay showcase of Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. First, I'll show you these locations on the map and explain how I identified them by using the gameplay footage, and then I'll show you the real-life locations which I visited a few days ago. Let's get started. Henry's journey begins in the village of Bilani. On the map, there are some tasks marked by letters. I am mainly interested in Task G. This task is located north of Bilani in the village of Pshitaki. The first written mention of Pshitaki dates back to 1144. In the footage from Pshitaki, we might even see a fortress. The first mention of it comes from 1454, when Jan Sukenik sold it to John Malszkarubski. This is about 50 years after KCD2, but that doesn't mean the fortress couldn't have existed 50 years earlier. Another clue that this is village of Pshitaki is when a lovely woman tells us to head towards Kuttenberg to meet the pole. When we check the compass, we see that Henry is riding eastward, which matches perfectly for Pshitaki. The marking of Task G in Pshitaki will serve as a landmark as I try to determine what other locations we can see in the gameplay footage. After Henry leaves Bilani, he heads to Kuttenberg. In the footage, we can see buildings like St. Barbara's Cathedral, St. James's Church, Hradec, and the Italian court. However, I will not go into more detail about Kuttenberg in this video. After leaving Kuttenberg, we can see Henry riding through the countryside heading west or southwest. On the right side, we can see some ruins. Task G in Pshitaki is located north of these ruins. This fits perfectly with Hill Fort Simburg. Some sources mention that an early Gothic stronghold was built here in the early Middle Ages. The site was known as Simburg Castle, and it was the property and birthplace of the Lords of Simburg. Over time, the Simburg family moved away, and the castle fell into disrepair. This all happened before KCD2. In another scene, we can see Henry riding past what seems to be a church. On the compass, we can see that he is heading directly east, where tasks G and D are located. This could correspond to the Church of St. Margaret of Antioch in the village of Suchdol. The construction of the Church of St. Margaret of Antioch is believed to have taken place around 1280. The church was Baroquized around 1708, when the tower was added to the original Gothic nave. When Henry arrives in the village Pshitaki, we can see the fortress I mentioned at the beginning of the video. When we look at the compass, we can see that Task D is located to the southwest. When Henry passed by the church I mentioned, Task D was located somewhere between the east and southeast. In these directions lies the village of Miskovice. The first written mention of this village dates back to 1131, so we can be sure it will appear in KCD2. After the woman sends us eastward toward Kuttenberg, we can see in the distance probably the Sedlec Monastery. It is the first Cistercian monastery in Bohemia, founded in 1142. I'm really looking forward to see this place in KCD2. It was truly impressive when I was there last time. Now I'll show you what most of the locations mentioned in the first part of the video look like today, as I recently visited them. First, I walked to Suchdol, which is about 10 kilometers from my home. Then I went to Vysoka, passed by Miskovice, and finally arrived in Bilani, from where I walked to Pshitaki. At the end of the video, I'll show you one more location that might appear in Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. In this footage, you can see the current appearance of the former fortress in Suchdol, which will likely play a very important role in the story of KCD2. I'll talk about it in more detail maybe another time. Here's also a footage of the Church of St. Margaret of Antioch, which underwent a major Baroque reconstruction. I spent about half an hour in Suchdol and then headed toward the village of Vysoka. The first written mention of the village dates back to 1278. I am sure that we will see this village in game. The early Gothic church of the Visitation of the Virgin Mary in Vysoka was built in the last third of the 13th century. Some sources state that the tower was added a little later and raised by one floor in the 17th century, so the tower will look a little different in KCD2. Here are some footages of how the village of Vysoka and the Church of the Visitation of the Virgin Mary looks today. Next, I headed to the village of Bailani. Nothing medieval seems to have survived here. The village only has this Baroque chapel of Saint Adalbert, founded at the beginning of the 18th century. An interesting fact was written on this educational board, where it mentions Miroslav of Simburg, who owned a castle on a promontory above the Verklai stream. The castle no longer exists. It's very likely this refers to the ruins we can see in the gameplay footage. As I was about to leave Bailani, I found some flower pots next to the garbage bins, so I took them. This is my first loot in Bailani. About 15 minutes later, I got in the village of Psitoki. In this footage, you can see what the former fortress looks like today. Before ending this video, I'll show you one more location that might appear in KCD 2. It's this reconciliation cross. This cross is also called Stone Old Woman, according to a legend. In Kuttenberg lived a rich widow whose land bordered the Sedlec monastery. One night, she tried to steal some monastery land by moving the boundary cross. As she lifted the cross, God, angry at her greed, cursed her. From now on, you will carry this stone on your back and wander in the night until you know where to put it. From that day, people feared passing by at night, hearing her desperate cry, "Where should I put it? Where should I put it?" One night, 2 monks heard the voice. Terrified, one bravely said, "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, put it back where you took it." Immediately, the stone fell, and her soul was freed. To this day, the cross is called the Stone Old Woman. The Stone Old Woman is located north of Kuttenberg on Kuklik Hill. The exact date of its creation is unknown, but it's estimated to be from the Middle Ages, so there's a chance we'll see it in KCD 2. This was the end of my journey, and since my water was gone, I spent the nearly 10-kilometer walk back thinking only about water. It wasn't too bad at all. I had a view of the beautiful Czech countryside, showing signs that summer was coming to end, and I was accompanied by the lovely company of mosquitoes in my flower pots.
I just found another 4 flower pots in the village Chartovka.
Thanks for watching the video till the end. Like and subscribe to my channel, or I'll eat your lunch tomorrow.